Welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current climate, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking about the silver linings that we're finding in adjusting to new farmers market realities in these interesting times. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Brijet Myers. I've spent years as an on and off-site farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Catt White, director of San Diego Markets, an even more active farmers market manager nowadays, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer and info booth lady for San Diego Markets.
All right, everyone, and welcome back to Tent Talk. Welcome. We're talking a lot lately about the current public health emergency and how it's affected our businesses as farmers, food makers, and farmers market managers. And we do know that our business concerns are secondary to the bigger issues of keeping people alive, but we will leave that topic to Dr. Fauci.
You listen to his podcast.
Yes, just listen to those podcasts if you want that. We are farmers market focused.
That's right. Talking about the farmers markets,
That's
but
right.
With a full, obviously,
Of course.
comprehension of the bigger picture.
We've been talking about health much longer than all these new hip people talking about health now that there's something happening, right?
True.
Always been talking about
We've
it.
always told people to wash their hands.
Yeah,
We were washing our hands before it was cool.
that's right.
Some states, counties, and cities are still not entirely clear about farmers markets being essential. And management groups, local governments, boards that run farmers markets are also still making decisions about how to open their markets, whether to open their markets.
Mhm.
So all that's going on. And it's all about finding the best balance between supporting your farmers and your vendors, your shoppers, what the community needs, and keeping everybody safe. So we've seen a whole range of modifications. And now there's a second round of reimagining markets that you've already redesigned.
More exciting yet.
Yes. So we just keep digging in. I know there's some people that are at different stages who are in seasonal markets and they're just now trying to figure out what they're going to do next. But I'm also seeing a lot of people like Daniel and Casey that were on last week where they started out with a drive-through and now they're reimagining the drive-through back to a walk-through. So
That's right.
there's a lot of people at different stages right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's a lot to keep up on, but we are also finding some silver linings in all
That's
this
right.
craziness. We're taking on projects that we've been putting off for years, sometimes because new protocols meant old systems couldn't work, and sometimes because we have time available that we didn't have when our markets were running full steam ahead.
That's true. Sometimes it seems like there's more time available. Sometimes I feel like I'm working harder than ever. Maybe it's all that missing staff. I don't know.
It's a weird, I think, like personal and professional life. It's like, I'm like too busy sometimes to do some stuff. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, there's all this extra time, right? But then I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't like Zoom with my friend because I have something scheduled. And like, it just seems like, why should I have anything scheduled? But of course I have things scheduled because we're still living our lives and doing things. It
Yeah.
just looks differently now.
I feel like even people
Yeah.
that aren't working at all,
Yeah.
people keep saying, oh, you've got all this time on your hands, except for those 3 kids you're homeschooling now.
Yeah. Seeing my kids a lot more hours a day than I have ever in my life seen them. So yeah, things are different. So
But we do have some time for new
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And we found other silver linings that just, it's not about new time. It's just about sort of what happens when you have to do certain things. Like when you have to lock down your market and only let so many people in, you don't have 1,000 dogs there because you just don't have room.
can we just talk about that being the
It's
best
true.
thing?
That's like the most obvious silver lining to me. I'm sorry. And we do live in a very dog-centric neighborhood
Yes.
at our big market. And there's usually so many dogs there.
Just
Yeah.
too many.
Yeah. And now there's hardly any. The occasional service
Yeah.
animal, which I totally understand, but not, a maze of leashes and small creatures to trip over.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of comments at the info booth, weirdly from people that are like happy there aren't dogs now, but are upset that we never enforced it before.
Right.
But I just keep saying like, well, now we have the ability to enforce it in a way that we weren't able to before. So.
Right. Yeah. Because it used to be part of Cal Code, which really they only have jurisdiction over people that have health permits, not
Yeah.
the general public. So there was no enforceability there. But now the city has made it part of the guidelines connected to our city permit to operate. So we actually do have enforceability there. And we have another completely logical reason, which I think people are taking maybe a little bit more seriously, in that we just don't have room.
Yeah.
And we have to limit our customers and we have to account for social distancing. When you got to get 6 feet away from somebody, but your 3 foot wide dog takes up part of that space, it's a problem. It's geometry, people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we always had complaints that we couldn't do anything about it. I would always get those people, I don't know why they would come to me. Maybe they felt like a kindred spirit, because I also agreed that people should not bring their pets to the market, but they would just be so angry that we couldn't like arrest these people with their dogs at the market. So now I know they're happy, but yeah, the same thing I've been hearing at the market, like, well, thanks for enforcing it now. You never enforced it before. And it's like, listen, we either lived BC before COVID or now. So let's not talk about that. And let's just be happy that this is one thing that we can do now. And it's really, when I explain to people who try to come with their dogs, I didn't really get a lot of pushback because people kind of understand that now. And they say, oh, shoot, I have to go take my dog home. And it's like, well, maybe you're home more now so you can walk your dog more. I think people would bring their dogs out on Saturday to the market because it was like their time to take their dog out and about because they worked Monday through Friday. So the market was like a fun place to get your dog out of the house. But now maybe you're working at home so you can do a little bit more of that.
That makes sense.
Off weekend hours. So
that's good.
Whatever, figure it out.
I think also it's really changed, and this is a really big silver lining, and I think a huge blessing for us being able to be recognized as essential business, and people are changing the way that they view the market, not just as a fun place to bring their dog or to take their Tinder date or to walk around on a Saturday, but it's a place of business that is a vital, essential business where you can get fresh food and vegetables and support local farmers and food makers. It's not just a fun place anymore. It's a place that we need. And so kind of taking away the dog element, I think adds another level of seriousness of what the market actually means to be there.
Well, and I think that is in itself kind of a silver lining, that we're actually rethinking what the market is. Yeah. Is it the biggest, busiest, most fun place to be ever all the time?
Not right now.
Not right now. Not right now. And we're kind of thinking about, do we want that to be the goal again? I don't know. Certainly not right away, obviously.
Yeah.
But even on a long-term basis, I think it's giving us all a chance to reflect on, what do we want our markets to be? Do we want them to be very obviously a grocery store, which they've always had at their core?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But do we want to work harder now to maybe make sure that that's not quite so hidden by all the fun and frivolity going forward? Even when we have the opportunity to open as an event or a gathering place, are we sure we want to do that? Do we want to maybe modify that a little bit on a long-term basis, even when it's not just about safety? Maybe it's just about what we want the complexion of our market to be.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more mindful about focusing on, farmers. And we've always had farmers kind of front and center at our market, but there was just so much other stuff because it's such a big market, our big one, that sometimes I think people forgot that. And do we want to work in the way we're rebuilding our market, since it was completely taken away and we're having to rebuild block by block? Do we want to maybe spend some time thinking through, where do we want to end up?
Yeah, exactly. I think it like taking away from that like festival part of farmers markets that's always kind of existed, where people come and just hang out and have fun, but it doesn't really help our business side of it, because since we don't charge like a ticket fee to enter the market,
right,
all those people gathering is great and that's fun. But I see, and I think it happens at all markets, a couple people are there to shop in a group, and then other people are there and they meet up and they're kind of there to hang out and they get like a drink or something like that. But really like to kind of whittle it down to those people that are there to shop and do commerce and really, provide a way for these farmers and food makers to make a living, like kind of shifting our focus to, hey, we don't need the biggest crowd ever. We just need the biggest group of people who really want to support these small businesses ever. So just kind of rethinking.
Yeah, it's funny because we have to limit our shoppers now to 50 people per block. We figured out that we're down about 75 or 80% in terms of sheer number of people that are on the street. But we have farmers telling us they're doing their best sales ever.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of farmers last week that say, this is like the old days when markets were really little and it was really just farmers and the bread guy and and everybody could shop. They say, and they were saying, it's cool when you have that really big market and so many people, but it really means that it's inconvenient for your real grocery shoppers to get to you sometimes. And so they don't want to fight their way through that crowd.
Yeah.
So, we're reconsidering what's essential. Actually, that's kind of a funny thing right now because the city only lets us open because we're an essential part of the food service, which is good.
Yeah.
And it's important. Obviously, people need their fresh food, but it means that the city's gotten really, really hands-on involved in determining what's essential. And so for anybody to decide what's essential for another person is a little funny. And so we have a lot of vendors now that we're getting a little bit more room. We can invite a few more people back, but they're not in a category the city allows. I'm still getting a lot of emails and calls from vendors saying, well, my customers think it's essential that I have caramel popcorn. I mean, that's an essential part of what they eat each week. And it makes them happy.
Yeah. That's my main food group.
Right. And
at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Right. And who are we to say that is not essential to somebody in terms of just that's what their treat is. That's what they gets them through the day of eating their vegetables is they know they get popcorn at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's funny that anybody, us or the city or anybody else, should get to decide what's essential, I suppose. So I had a vendor that said sunscreen. I would think sunscreen's essential, right?
Not if you're staying inside all day.
Yeah.
Right. So
no one's
I
going
guess
out.
That's the city's that's the city's assumption. Yes, you're not supposed to be out, so no, sunscreen's not essential.
Which is also, I get our popcorn and our sunscreen and our other vendors because if I were to go to a grocery store right now, I could get caramel popcorn and sunscreen.
Correct.
So it's also kind of that complicated situation that we're in, that if we're considered a grocery store, why can't we offer everything that a grocery store offers? So it's,
which in the case of Target would include clothes.
Yeah.
You go there for food, you can still get shoes.
You can get a necklace.
You can get a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we are in that kind of little
it's an odd thing.
It's an odd thing, but we've always been in a weird, farmers markets have always been in a little bit of like a not strange, but like a unique category. Yeah, a unique category. That's the charm of farmers markets, right?
That's true.
I find it charming.
So we're considering all kinds of things when we're inviting people back one by one as we have a little more space. We just went into a phase where there's a few feet less required in between booths, which means that all adds up to a few more booths. So we're looking at who comes back. So what's an essential grocery thing is part of it. And all market managers do that all the time when they're balancing their markets, but it's just more really defined now that they need to be essential. But we're also considering some personalities and is somebody an adaptable person or not when we're inviting them back. And that's something that it would have been fun to consider earlier. So we're filing that under silver lining because we've had vendors that have been with us sometimes for 10 years who have always been kind of hard to deal with. They don't react well if you move their booth 10 feet or, if you change a rule, or they never ever want to think about online payment. They want to give you cash and they don't want to give it to you at a certain time of day. And anyway, all the things that make people not such adaptable folks. Yeah. Since everybody was kicked out of our market by the city, including us for a while, and we're all coming back one by one. It's kind of giving us a chance to evaluate and to have conversations with those people actually and say, this new situation requires that anybody that's here be really adaptable and be really self-sufficient and not require a lot of high maintenance from the staff, because we actually have to be so much more involved on the customer side every minute right now that we can't be catering to you. We can't change every system because that's what you have in mind today. So let's decide between the two of us, is it really a good place for you to be right now? Yeah. And some of those folks it's not a good place for them to be. And we're not inviting them back because it's not going to be comfortable for them. It's not going to make our job easier. All those are probably things we should think about all the time, even when it's not COVID-19. Exactly. But we get busy and we're on a growth path and we want to make sure that we have every product that anybody could possibly want ever. And maybe we need to think about that more analytically. Yeah. And those vendors that have some unique products. So maybe we were more willing to put up with difficult
personalities to say it nicely, because their product was unique, or, you know, we knew that they were really they were a really great maker and it would be good to have them in the market. People liked them. So we kind of would deal with their personality kind of thing. You know, people who challenge all the rules, or, you know, want to discuss every little thing, every little rule, or every little request or requirement with them. They want to have a long discussion. Now we just don't have time for that. And we don't have to be offering everything under the sun now, because actually we just can't, because our market just got sliced in half and less than half. So it's really kind of determining who's going to play along with this, who's going to follow and be flexible with us. And that's who's just going to be in the market right now. And those other vendors are just going to have to, if you can't deal with change and you can't kind of follow these rules as they come up and as they change, and you can't follow them 100%, then you just can't be in the market right now. And that's, you know, kind of helped us. A few people have been sitting, I don't know who's listening to this podcast, so I don't want to say.
It's you.
You know who you are. You know who you are if you're listening.
Your ears are burning.
Yeah. If you were arguing with me in January and February, you know who you are. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, and it's better for them too, because really those kind of people are the people who just don't deal with change very well. And believe me, I have a child like this. I know what it's like, and it's not anything negative about you as a person or you as a business. It's just some people just can't go with the flow, and it's just all we need are people who can be really flexible and who can listen to us really well, because we have to listen to the city and the county and ag and everybody really, really well right now. So that's just how it is.
And long term, the silver lining could be that we're realizing that maybe we don't ever want to deal with people that can't listen to the rules and can't be flexible and can't get along well with others.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, we just have to make it work from now on, which is great news for me. What else?
Other silver linings are things that we wanted to implement for a really long time, but it never had a clear moment to do it or time to do it, or, you know, nothing really pushed us over the edge to finally implement these things. So I think the online fee payment for vendors is really great example of something that I know Catt and Brijet have wanted to do for forever. And now it's the moment.
It's the moment. And you know what? I know there are other markets that do this.
Many.
But none of them in our area. Nobody in San Diego does it. There's not a single farmer's market that does online fee collection here.
But at the conference, I was speaking with so many farmers market managers and just kind of talking about operational procedure things. And then we talk about fee collection, and I'm like, yeah, we walk around and collect cash at the market. And they're like, what? You do what?
A lot of them also do that.
Well, yes, I mean, some of them,
but a lot of them were like,
but
it's 2020.
Well, and they were really asking me, how do you make sure they show up to the market? Because people, I think, do prepay so that the vendors are obligated to show up. So we never had an issue with that. People would show up anyway. I mean, we had other kind of rules for if you don't show up, but really just doing that online payment, it's just really easier. It's easier for everybody. It's easier for the vendor and the farmer on site as well, because they don't have to stop their sales and have a discussion with us in the middle of the market or stay after.
Or have their employees take care of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, which was always kind of difficult and confusing. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, like the check isn't signed and I can't sign it.
Right.
So then you get into this whole situation. So just really avoiding all that stuff that we've always just hated. This is a great silver lining.
Great. Yeah. So that's a big silver lining.
Yeah, for sure.
Communications with customers have kind of gone to a whole new level. Our email newsletters now are we're just now getting back into the bouncy promotional, here's a nice recipe section. That's been completely ignored for 7 or 8 weeks while our newsletters focused entirely on here's the market. If you have to come, come alone and then go home.
You really have to.
You really have to
really
come.
Not very promotional. And if you're going to come, these are all the things you have to do. Don't stand near anybody. Don't touch anything.
Don't look at us.
Don't even look at me. So it's been interesting. And because the rules have been so weird in some cases, just not natural things for us to do, we've gotten into newsletters and other communications, social and everything that's really explanatory, that's really explaining this is how markets work because of this. And this is why we do this at the market because of this. And really kind of, I feel like our customers know a whole lot more now about how a market operates. I think a lot of markets are having to talk right now about, did you know what pays for the staff people and the permits and the insurance and all that stuff at markets is the vendor paying their fee? I don't think people necessarily knew that.
Mhm.
Did you know that if you take it down to a really small market with a lot of space in between vendors, there's not enough money to pay for the market to operate? So
Yeah.
we've had, we've seen farmers markets around the country doing fundraisers and things to explain that. But these are all things that consumers didn't really know.
Yeah.
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 So it's been interesting.
I think also our customers, I've noticed, just because now we have 3 blocks with an entrance at each block, people have to wait in line typically to visit the vendors they want to visit. So we put up signs in front of each entrance to let them know what vendors are on each block. And I've noticed over the last couple of weeks that people are starting to learn the vendors' names. Just like, because the first couple of weeks they're like, there's this guy and he's a farmer and he sells this and that. And I could kind of like guess. And then they'd be like, yeah, I think that's it. But now people, I think, are finally learning the farm's name or the vendor's name. And so it's kind of cultivating a deeper relationship than they had before, where they just kind of knew the vendor by where they were located in the market. And I've also been explaining to people more here in California that we have to keep our farmers separate from our other vendors. And people are like, oh, okay, if I'm looking for a farmer, it's always going to be on the south side of the street.
Right.
So customers are kind of catching on to these other things that when the market is really busy and they're just trying to, grab stuff, and they're like, oh, there's a tomato vendor over there, I'm just going to grab it here. I think they're developing deeper relationships with the vendors they're shopping from.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too. And they're like, oh yeah, that guy. And learning their names, I think, has been like learning their farm names or their business names it's really interesting, because I didn't really realize that so many shoppers, even regular shoppers that I've seen in the market for 10 years, are like, oh, my bread guy. And I'm like, which one? Like there's 3, like which kind of bread? And then I'm like, oh, Honeymoon Ranch. And they're like, yes, is that what they're called? Like, just like they have a banner in their booth, but it's like, and so it's nice. And then they can go find them on Instagram, and people are tagging people, and it's just it has really cultivated this like deeper community relationship.
Yeah.
Which
I think
is
so too.
Always been great. And we've always tried to do, but we've always had so many other things to be handling and worrying about. So we haven't been able to do that kind of like micro managing of that community building. So it's really nice that it's happening this way.
And there's more of a dialogue going on right now, partly because we were, completely cleaned out, and then we've been adding it back a little bit. Each of our newsletters, we've been putting a link where people can easily email us saying, I'm looking for this vendor.
Yeah.
And so we've got a lot of people emailing us back and saying, again, they don't know their names. They're saying, I'm looking for the guy that sells the yogurt that's you have to ask them for a few more hints. Which end of the market are they at? What flavor do you like? Maybe I can nail it down that way. But there's a lot of customers emailing us now. And then they're emailing, we'll do a sign off on our email newsletter that says something like, we're here for you. We're all in this together. We're family. We'll be back. And then we have all these people that email and say, I just love the way you're talking to us, and that we are a family, and you made me cry, and we are all in this together. So it's been kind of cool, because normally we're just writing email newsletters 3 times a week, and we don't know if anybody reads them.
Yeah.
But now we have so many people answering. It's been really cool, the depth of dialogue that this has created.
Yeah, they have time to get to know their market.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's been nice.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice when things slow down just a little bit.
It is just a little bit. We don't want it to halt. We did not like that when everything stopped.
It could have gone a different way.
There was not really a silver lining to everything being completely stopped and everybody not knowing what was going on.
I mean, I actually would have kept the dogs over having a virus.
Yes.
It's a bit a high price to pay for some of these things.
Yes, definitely is a high price to pay for a lot of good things that are coming out of this. But if this is just where we are. This is what's happening. So it's nice to look at the positive things that are happening. So
here's a good one. Because we have to update our website so often as the rules change and the layout changes and the vendors change, we're taking our website that has been just kind of a hot mess for some years now. We're discovering just how hot a mess it was now that we're having to dig in. And
I always knew, first of all.
What is the address for this market? The one where it was 4 years ago before we moved.
Don't look at our website.
Please don't look at our website.
Justine, fix it before this podcast airs so nobody can see.
So anyway, Justine and I are both like taking a website class, and we're going to get control of our website, and we're going to refresh it, and it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
And we always talked about doing that, getting better skills and not having to rely on getting a webmaster's attention. And and frankly, it wasn't the webmaster's fault, not having to rely on one of us coming up with content and going through the whole website and writing down what the corrections were that needed to be made. But we're finally actually just making the time and paying attention, and we're going to be fixing both websites, actually, San Diego Markets and Farmers Market Pros. We're going to make them better.
That's right.
So we're doing that now. That's a silver lining.
That is a big silver lining.
And I got laid off from my job, and now I'm back on Tent Talk. So
that's the
best silver lining of all.
That's
actually,
right. Justine got laid off from her fancy schmancy job, and she came back to Farmers Market Pros. And
personally, I'm very glad that you got laid off.
Happy about it.
You know what? I'm glad too.
Thank you, Peyton.
Neck and neck. Is a virus too high a price to pay? I don't know.
On that one, maybe it's.
It's been very nice to have Justine back. I must say.
I agree. That's silver lining ever.
Yes. So maybe other markets are seeing some like old employees come back, or, you know, people have been starting to work with markets or volunteer at markets who have extra time now, who have turned out to be very valuable people. So that's a nice thing that could be happening in farmers market communities. I know that we have also some really good volunteers and some other staff that have come to work at our markets that we've kind of known through other people that have been really fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's been really great to work with them. So, you know, they're kind of coming and going right now, but it's been nice to have these people at the market who would have never even had time or thought of working at the farmers market, but it just happened to be one of the only businesses that was functional at the beginning of April. So yeah,
it's been good. And people volunteering. We're seeing people in our community, but we've never been a real big volunteer market.
Yeah.
And we've got great people volunteering now from our community, because we need so many more humans on the street to help people and push people apart.
Poke them with that 6-foot pole, tell them to get going. Yeah, I've had some friends that have come that I've just, you know, been friends with personally who are like, hey, I got laid off. Do you need some help at your market? And coming down, like Chad working at the market's been so great because, you know, he's having a great time. He's like, hey, I never really knew what you did at your job. I'm like, well, it was a little bit different before this, but, you know, kind of along the same lines. So it's been nice to have those kind of opportunities. So
it's fun.
Yeah, it's so fun.
On your food maker side, Justine, do you guys have any silver linings in the process world? Have you had a chance to reevaluate what you want to do? I bet that's happened a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've just thought about kind of our role in the local food chain of, you know, early on, we kind of decided like, we love hot sauce. Obviously, a lot of people eat hot sauce in their food, but we just don't perceive ourselves as essential right now. And we have been, as of this last week, invited back to some of the farmers markets we're in, but because I work on the side of it, I know that space is really limited. And so we've kind of just said, you know what, we're doing okay. Our online sales have been fine. So we're just going to allow that space to be filled by somebody else. So for us, we've kind of just taken the back seat, but it's been perfect for us as career kind of shifted. And Dave has another little side hustle that he does. And as we talked to Maya from Maya's Cookies 2 weeks ago, I think definitely she is a great example of somebody who's a food maker that realized like, wow, online sales is a really is going to become a bigger aspect of my business. And that was something that she already wanted to do. And so she's taking this opportunity to really push forward in that. So I think that's probably something a lot of food makers are doing.
The other thing I'm seeing just now, as we're able to invite a few more people back, but we still can't have prepared food at our markets. We can't have hot food. Yeah. We're actually seeing some businesses that I think have struggled to make it with hot foods, because that's a tricky business. You've got a lot of waste and it's really hard to gauge how much inventory you need. And once it's cooked, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
We're helping some of those folks convert to, like our Indian food guy is now going to be doing frozen Indian food dinners and samosas that you can take home and cook yourself.
Oh, great.
And which is actually kind of a better business for him, because that's more stable. And if you don't sell it that day, it's still frozen. You can still sell it a different day.
Yeah.
It's interesting for him as he's kind of working his way through the costing and what the margins are for one thing versus the other thing. I mean, it's opening up some new opportunities for other people to think about is, what do I really want to do? What do I want to spend my time on? Probably a whole different staffing level if you're not doing the hot food.
Yeah.
So we're seeing people discover new businesses or new variations of their business that they would never have had time to sit down and analyze until now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, yeah. And just the farmers that are doing CSAs now, and just the ones that have been talking to, some of them had CSAs in place. Some of them started a new CSA, and they still very much think of the farmers market as their main source of revenue. And they, that's how they touch all their customers and get, well, not touch physically, but
Not anymore.
not anymore, but like get to be, eye to eye with their customer. I was going to say face to face, but if we're all wearing masks, I guess it's just eye to eye. But really, that's their main source. But having like CSAs where they can still do boxes and still have that on the side, because CSAs are important to a lot of farms' growth. And so they've never had time to do that before. And so now they can kind of focus on getting that system started. And then also, as market restrictions start to ease or widen a little bit, they can get back into the market and be kind of like reorganized and ready to do that. So
yeah, it's smart.
It's been smart. It's been good to see how they kind of taking this opportunity to do things that have been on the back burner maybe.
Well, Brijet, I think you've seen consumers that have never gotten farm fresh food before that have taken farm deliveries because they didn't want to go out to grocery stores.
Yeah.
And so they've taken farm box deliveries, and they've discovered what we all know, which is that tastes better.
Yeah.
That fresh food straight from the farmer tastes better. And I think as the farmers start to pull back a little bit on deliveries, as they get more active at markets, might see some new shoppers at markets who are actually there not to take selfies or to, get an iced tea, but to actually shop for groceries and get really fresh produce.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now that I think a lot of those market box kind of pick up things, like I've been working with a farmer and bringing boxes to my house, and my friends come and pick them up. But I'm not going to do that anymore after the end of May, just because markets are reopening and that farmer is going back to most of his markets. And I'm, back, and there's more work for me to do. So those people that have been having that food, if they're going to go to a grocery store and try to get that same food, they're not going to find it. It's not going to taste right. So this is kind of given people an opportunity to expand their kind of where they're getting their food from and think about it. Cause they've been asking me so many questions like, where's this farm? I'm like, it's in Oceanside. It's so close. They're like, didn't even occur to them,
right.
It just doesn't occur to some people. So now that they don't want to go to the grocery store,
or as grocery store supply chains are breaking down,
yeah,
people are starting to look at where else can you get food? Oh, wait, you can get food from the people that produce it? What?
And just getting to know people who produce the food locally, or who kind of bring producers to the street. So all my friends are like, I'm so lucky to know you because you know people. And I'm like, well, you can know a farmer too. Like I'm not special that I know these people. You can know them too. They're your farmers. You live here. And it's just like watching their eyes get so big, and it doesn't occur to me because I've been in this, scene for so long, but I like that they're making those connections, and so it's been nice to see like some people that were getting boxes from me have just now straight been communicating with the farmer, and they go and get their own boxes, and I see them at pickup, and I'm like, hey, even though they live 3 doors down from me,
that's great.
They're going to pick it up because they wanted to cultivate that relationship. And so, and they're like, yeah, I've been going to the market now. And so it's nice to see customers really making that extra connection with farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many silver linings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could use them right now.
We can use them. Everyone's getting kind of lockdown fatigue.
They are.
I'm trying not to say quarantine. My very intelligent son said that we have not been in a quarantine because we are not sick or have not thought that we are sick. And quarantine is for people that have been in contact with sick people or have been sick and they need to be isolated. That's what he was explaining to me.
Oh.
He like Googled it or something. And I was like, I guess you're right. Our family has not been a quarantine. We've just been a stay-at-home order / lockdown.
Yeah. Shelter
in place. And he said, we're not socially distancing. We're physically distancing.
Actually, Governor Newsom tried to switch that verbiage a few weeks ago. He said that we're not socially distanced. We still are social with people. We're still talking to people on Zoom, and we're physically distancing, but I don't think it's stuck. I think social distance, it just has a ring to it, and people just
liked it.
With it.
But I feel like that's not doing anyone a favor, because if you say socially distant, it makes me feel sad. Like I don't want to be socially distanced, but I will be physically distanced from someone.
Right.
If I have to be.
Right.
Anyways, we'll just continue. I think other kind of words will come into play as we start to gradually reopen and get closer to people and get some new phrases. But yeah, my son is very strict about we can't use the word quarantine or socially
job.
distance in our
Ah,
house.
Good job, Betty. Well, will he let us use the word silver lining? I want you to teach him about that one.
I will, yes, I'm sure he'll
Okay.
like it.
Okay, let's do that.
That's right. All right. Well, I hope everyone's, enjoying their stay at home and physical distance. And I hope you're all socializing with each other. And markets are a great place to social from behind your masks or behind that tape around your booth. Just let us know what's happening in your world. What are your silver linings? We want to hear all about them. Are you just opening up your market for the season? Right now, I know some seasonal markets are ramping up, and maybe the first part of June, we'll see some more. Has anyone still delaying opening? I'm not sure if people
I just saw somebody.
people are delaying or not opening, or smaller markets combining. So we want to see all those kind of creative ways that people are getting through this. Or will you be doing online ordering or drive-up markets? That's also something that's working well for a lot of people. To hear what's happening in various parts of the country or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Feel free to come over, answering the 3 qualifying questions, and join that group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Please tag us in your posts because we love to see your photos of how your markets are operating right now. Thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thanks so much for listening.